in for today's webinar, which is all about getting out of your rut and how to break through life's plateaus. So I hope you're as excited as we are to get this thing underway, and we're not going to waste any time. We're just going to get stuck straight into it right now. So buckle in and away we go. So before we start, a couple of things that we need to run through. First of all, we need to make sure we've got our I know button switched off. So we all have an I know button. If you feel yourself wanting to say those two words at any point in today's webinar, I want you to challenge yourself to stay switched on, because when we say I know, our brain basically switches off from the possibility of learning anything new, which is obviously not ideal for what we're trying to do here today. We want to have fun. That's super important. If we have fun, we're going to learn better, we're going to remember better, and it's just more enjoyable. So plenty of things you could be doing right now, and we appreciate the fact that you're on here, and we just want to make sure that it's a good time for everybody. Yep, that's the I know, so make sure that's gone. And what we're going to do right now is to set your brain's GPS. So we all have a GPS in our brain, and just like your car, it needs to be set, otherwise we don't know exactly where we're going. So 3 things that you want to get out of this webinar. Really, really simple. It's going to be different for everybody, whether it's just you're stuck in a job that you don't like at the moment, you want to be able to come up with a plan to get out of it, whether you just feel like there's something missing in your life and you want to kind of get a better idea as to why and how you can fix that. Okay, whatever it is for you, what this activity is going to do is make sure that your brain is actively seeking those things throughout the presentation, and you're going to hear something different to what the next person is based on what you want to get out of the session. So we're going to give you 30 seconds or so now, just quiet time to have a bit of a think of exactly what you do want to get out of it. What was it that got you on here in the first place? Could be a good question to ask yourself. Okay, so hopefully you've got your 3 things, if not at least 1 or 2, and that will be a great start. And you might think of something as we're talking, just write it down and make yourself really, really aware of it. So we're going to skip along now. The next one we're going to talk about is the line. So really, really simple concept. You see that line through the middle of the picture, and that's what we're referring to there. So in any situation in life, on any given day, in any given moment, you have 2 options. Okay, you have option number 1, which is to live below the line, and this is what most people do, and you'll probably realize that as we're chatting. So below the line activity, basically blame, excuses and denial. Okay, so you probably think of 100 people off the top of your head that walk around blaming everybody else, making excuses and denying that they're responsible for their results. Okay, on the flip side, we have above the line behavior, which displays ownership, accountability and responsibility, and that's where we want to be playing most of our life. Okay, you're always going to have times where you drop below, but the goal is to get back up as quickly as possible, so being able to recognize that. And tonight's webinar is no different. So if we can all agree to play above the line, you're going to get so much more out of the session, and it's really just a great thing for every aspect in life as well. So find that on the internet, print it off, stick it on your fridge as a reminder as well, and it's going to help you massively, as it has helped me. Moving along now. Who are we? Good question. That's me, good looking guy, I know. My name's Jacob McCluskey. I own a business called Positive Existence Personal Training, and founded a not-for-profit called the Jason Rich Foundation after my buddy Jason passed away in a car accident. And what we do is we fund Year 12 students through defensive driving throughout central Queensland, and now we're just moving that into Brisbane as well. And obviously the personal training business, that's pretty self-explanatory. We have boot camps and personal training in Brisbane and in Yeppoon, which is up in CQ, where I come from originally. I'm lucky enough to be able to help thousands of people get into the body that they want to get into, and just feel more confident about themselves and live a happier and healthier life, which has been a great privilege of mine. Charge out rate for personal training is about 4 times the norm. So just to give you an idea of, I guess, basically saying that I'm okay at what I do, I guess. And this is Brad. So what I'm going to do now is introduce you to Brad, who will be running today's webinar, and I'm lucky enough to have been able to work with Brad as my business coach for quite a period of time, which has been great for me, and certainly a life-changing experience, and I'm really looking forward to having him share his knowledge with you as well. So welcome, Brad. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Jake, and big welcome to everyone on the call today. A wise man once told me that you can always make more money, but you can never get your time back. So I do really acknowledge you for taking the time today to work hard on yourself to see what you can do to get more out of your life. So if it's okay, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself, and that way you know who you're dealing with today. I'm part of the Action Coach business coaching group. We're the #1 business coaching firm in the world. My background with Action Coach, I've been involved with them on and off for about 10 years now. Initially I started as a client, and now I work with business owners of all shapes and sizes. The smallest business I've dealt with had a turnover of about $10,000 a year, and I've dealt with companies right up to $23 million of turnover, as well as public companies. So a wide range of businesses that I deal with. My background, originally I was an electrical engineer, but I'm much better now. I grew up in a town in northern New South Wales called Tenterfield, and some of the pictures you can see on the screen now, you've probably worked out that family is very important to me. It's a large part of my life. Centre top pictures actually taken in Tenterfield. If you've ever been there, it's a beautiful little country town in northern New South Wales. My mum and my dad and my sister and our respective partners. My little superhero on the right hand side, that's my son Braden, who's just about 4 now. On the left hand side is my kids Laney and Braden, although they've got a bit of a worried look on their face there. Centre bottom is a guy called Brad Sugars, who some of you may have heard of. He started Action Coach here in Brisbane about 21 years ago now. He now lives in Las Vegas. He's worth about $200 million, so for a local boy he's done alright for himself. Action Coach, we've currently got around about 1,000 or so offices globally. So yeah, our business is clicking along quite nicely. You Queenslanders will know the guy on the right. He's been a bit of an inspiration to me with some of his coaching results that he's got. Of course, probably the greatest NRL coach of all time. And there's a couple little pictures there from my previous years as an electrical engineer. So, but as I said, I'm better now. I guess you could boil my life purpose down to 2 simple words, and it's basically transform lives. And it took me a long time to work out what I'm actually here for on this planet and how to make the greatest contribution to society. But it's something that drives me now. I'm very clear on my purpose, and I feel quite lucky to have done that. So I want to share with you today some of the secrets and tricks, I guess you could say, that I've learned about life and how to get yourself out of a rut and start getting more of the results that you want to do. Just one caveat on my life mission, I guess, is in transforming lives, is you have to fundamentally want to change. So if I've given up working with people who don't want to change, so if you're interested in changing, then take lots of notes tonight, get fully involved in this, and give it 100%, because life has a simple little rule: if you give 100%, you'll get 100% back. So I fully encourage you to, when we ask you to do the exercises and get involved, is to yeah, go for it as hard as you can. It's the best way to get the most out of it. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is help to get a little bit of clarity about what you want out of your life, because a lot of the times when we do get stuck in a rut, it's largely because we've lost our vision. We've lost what it is that we want to get out of life. Now, our brain, as Jake said there before, has a very important tool in it called your reticular activating system. So this part of your brain is very clever at finding ways to do things, but you have to set it. So hopefully at the start of the session you wrote down what you wanted to get out of the session, and it's already working for you. Now the thing about clarity is most of us know what we don't want. However, we tend to focus on that, and by the law of attraction we tend to get more of it. The best thing to do with what you don't want is to flip it over to the other side. You see, the key thing here is having clarity about what you want and taking action towards it is going to give you the success that you're looking for. Now, success means different things to different people, but basically it means when you start to achieve your goals, you are being successful. So right now we're going to do an exercise around clarity to help you start to think about what's going to be a better result than what you're getting now. Now I have to say up front, this is going to maybe a little bit challenging for you, the exercise we're going to do, and a large part of what I'm trying to do tonight is to push you out of your comfort zone, alright, because the things we want generally sit outside of our comfort zone. So if you had them in your comfort zone, you'd already have them by now. So part of getting out of the rut is going to be getting a little bit uncomfortable. All right, so first question. What 3 things would you do if you only had 3 years to live? So I want you to think about a date 3 years from now. Let's say it's the 18th of December 2015. If you knew that you were going to die on that day, what would you do differently? How would you live right now? What would be the 3 most important things you wanted to do? Maybe you wanted to do some travel work. Maybe you want to get married. Maybe you want to start a family. Maybe you want to start your own business. What would you do if you only had 3 years to live? What would be the top 3 things that you would do? So just take a minute now and just think about them. Generally, they'll either be about family, money, your career, things you want to learn. Maybe there's community goals. What would you do? I recently was lucky enough, my grandmother, who is now 87, we had her 87th birthday party, and it's kind of, it sounds a little bit backward, I guess, but what we decided, she's getting quite old and frail, we organised a big bash for her because we decided that it would be better for all the people who have been really important in her life to be able to spend some time with her now before she goes. And the event was a true success, because it's a sad thing about death is that usually once we're gone, all the people turn up to our funeral and we never get to hear all the good things. So maybe it's to organise a wake party for you in 3 years' time, whatever it is. What would you do if you only had 3 years to live? Okay, next thing. Oh, too far. What 3 things would you do if you only had 1 day to live? So we're shortening up the time frame now. You've now only got 24 hours to live. What are the 3 things that you would do? Maybe you go to your favourite restaurant, watch your favourite movie, have a big party, watch the sunrise, watch the sunset. What would you do? What 3 things would you do in order to toddle off this mortal coil? Now, make sure that you, within these things, that you're not being unreasonable, like pretending you've got $1 million or anything. From your current position, what 3 things would you do? All right, and once you've thought about that, what if you could only make 1 phone call before you curled up your toes? Who would you call and what would you say? And my question is to you, why haven't you done it? This comes down to that comfort zone thing again. We all know there's certain people that we need to probably say some things that we've been holding back on, but in terms of going forward, sometimes we've got to clear up the past. Your past can be a bit like a bungee cord. Every time you run out and start heading towards your goals, some of your history is like having one of those big bungee cords wrapped around your waist, and it will just pull you back. So a lot of what we're going to look at tonight is what some of those bungee cords are, and maybe it's these bungee cords that are keeping you stuck in your rut. But until we start to work out what they are, we're not going to get anywhere. But we've got to be clear on what our end goal is. Okay, so now you've got a few ideas about how you want your life to really be. Now we've got a destination for us to get out of our rut and get on the journey to what's most important to us in our life. So why do you think we all stay the same? Who's seen the Groundhog Day movie? It's a classic movie. It's one of my favourites, I guess. Bill Murray, who keeps having the same day over and over and over. Now, in the end, the way he gets out of his rut in this movie was he started doing things differently. But you see, here's the thing about life. Fundamentally, there's no more secrets anywhere on the planet. If you want to find out how to do something, you just Google it. Whether it's weight loss, or relationships, or make more money, or how to start a business, whatever it is, we don't need any more information. It's not the lack of information that keeps us stuck. It's something else that holds us in place, that not getting out of our comfort zone is a better option for us, not taking the actions that we need to. Now here's maybe a massive blinding flash of the obvious for you. We stay the same because that's our mind's job. Now some of you are probably sitting at home thinking right now, what the hell is he talking about? And we were talking about comfort zone there a minute ago. But you see, from an evolutionary perspective, your brain is designed to keep you alive. So all those thousands of years ago when we were running around out in the jungle or the bush avoiding the saber-toothed tiger, your mind and your brain's primary role was to keep you safe. Now it still does that today. It's about making sure that you stay safe. So when we go to take on new challenges or something goes outside of our comfort zone, our brain gets really good at giving us a whole bunch of reasons of why we shouldn't do it. You ever notice that? The two most common things that your brain's going to say in this instance are, what if? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if, what if? And generally, that'll be enough for you to stay in your comfort zone and keep you where you are and keep having the same Groundhog Day. Now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight may be a little bit challenging for you. Alright, so I had a note here about it may contain some offensive language. So some of the expressions and phrases that I use tonight may really get under your skin. And people often say to me, you know, are you a motivational speaker, or you know, do you get out there and get people all motivated? And my usual response is, well, not exactly, because if you motivate an idiot, they just go and do stupid things faster. My role in my coaching business and in my speaking business is to become what I call an irritational speaker. Okay, so when my coaching clients leave a session and when you finish here tonight, there are two things that I want to have done. I want to have either empowered you to take some action, or I want to have perturbed you or rubbed you up the wrong way enough to take some action. Either way, as we leave this session tonight, I want you to have a list of things that you're prepared to go out there and do, and you're fully energized to do it. So that's why we stay where we are. To get to where we want to get to, there's a really simple formula for getting what you want out of life, for life success. Now on the right hand side of this equation you can see the word have, and these are the things that we really want to get in our life, whether it's, you know, cars or relationships or money or travel or whatever it is. The things on the right hand side represent the things that you want to have. On the left hand side we've got be times do. Now the do part, as I was highlighting there before, is actually relatively easy. What to do a lot of the time is pretty easy in terms of everything that you need to work out to do with regard to actions is available somewhere. They're either in a book or on the internet, or you can go and ask someone. But the challenge comes that you need to be a certain person to take those actions. What happens in your mind when you see an action that you need to do, when your brain comes up with that, what if this happens, what if that happens, you need to become someone stronger or better than what your mind is tricking you into. And the B part of the equation is really interesting when you look at, and I use the example of millionaires. You've seen in the news and that over the last few years, quite often millionaires who've built up businesses and so forth will go broke or whatever, but you don't ever see the success stories of them recovering. So, you know, guys like Alan Bond and Donald Trump. There's a story about Donald Trump who was walking down the street one day after he'd actually lost a whole bunch of deals, and he was something like $20 million in debt, and he's walking down the street with this particular journalist having an interview, and he walks past a bum passed out on the street, and he said to the journalist, "You see that guy there? He's actually worth more than I am right now. I'm worth minus 20 million and he's worth zero, so he's actually better off than I am right now. Except for the fact that the way Donald Trump is being, he has a millionaire mindset. So he bounced straight back up to where his millionaire mindset thermostat was. Similarly, for people who win the lotto, they generally blow it and end up worse off within 2 years of when they won the money, because they don't think like a millionaire. They're not being a millionaire. So it's really interesting the way the B part functions here. The do is pretty simple for what needs to happen, but whether you are able to be the person you need to be, to take those actions, is the key part. So we're going to dive in now to a little bit deeper level of what this B is all about. Now right here we've got a picture of an iceberg. And icebergs are a great way to represent human beings. Now you're probably thinking, what the hell is he talking about now? Well, we call this concept the Identity Iceberg. So above the water you can see actions, behaviour and decisions. So if we were on a cruise ship and we saw an iceberg, The tip of the iceberg, that's what we get to see in human beings, their outward behaviour. But it's what goes on below the surface that we have no idea about. And generally for ourselves, we don't understand what's going on below the surface as well. So we start off at the level just below the surface of the water, your skills. Now your skills are pretty easy to develop. They're the physical things like communicating and calculating and using your hands or whatever it is. But usually they're the easiest to affect out of the stuff that's below the surface. Now your skills around certain things are influenced by your beliefs. Now I want you to do a quick exercise here. If you've got some pen and paper, I want you to write down the word belief. So B-E-L-I-E-F. Now this time I want you to write down the same thing, but I want you to swap the last two letters. So you now write down B-E-L-I-F-E, because it's your beliefs that will be life for you. So if you have a belief or some limiting beliefs, shall we say, about an area in your life, then you're probably not going to develop the skills and thus take the actions to get what you want. Now, beliefs are a critical part of the human nature, and in the seminars that we're doing in a couple of weeks' time, we're actually going to do an exercise around money beliefs, where we're going to help you uncover some of the things that may be holding you back with regard to your finances. Now as we go a little bit deeper here, the next thing that affects our actions and everything above the surface is our values. Now a value is something that's important to you. It's at your core. It's part of your key personality or the way you live your life. And generally values are a little bit harder to uncover, and as we go deeper into the iceberg it does get a little bit more difficult to start to understand what some of these points are, because your iceberg here can also be represented by your subconscious mind. That part of your mind that you are unaware of that is actually running your heartbeat, growing your hair and your fingernails, rebuilding cells, all of the things that happen to keep you alive. It's a very clever part of your brain, but it can also be a very, not destructive, but part of your brain that stops you from getting what you want out of life. Now as we go deeper, identity is the last part of the iceberg. Your identity is about who and how you see yourself. And your identity is generally revealed in the things you say about yourself, like, I am this or I am that. I'm a business coach, I am a father. A part of my identity. Now all of those things there interleave with each other. So who you think you are determines your values in life. Your values will determine your set of beliefs. Your set of beliefs will determine the skills that you get in life. And all of those will combine to give you the life that you want. So if you're stuck in a rut and you're not getting what you want, then you can start to see where it's come from. Each of the areas in our life has its own iceberg. So we can look at our health. It has an iceberg. There's certain skills, beliefs and values that determine our health. Our finances, our careers, our relationships. Each of those areas has its own unique iceberg that is producing the results that we have in our life. Now the last part of the iceberg is the environment. So the part around the chunk of ice below the water that determines its shape. Now in this instance here, your environment generally refers to where you are now, who's within your environment, what you have within your environment in terms of, what TV shows you're watching, what are you listening to on the radio, who are you spending most of your time with. But it's also influenced by your childhood. So your parents and your siblings and your teachers and your friends and all of the things that you grew up with, they all have shaped your iceberg and are now shaping your iceberg as we speak. So to get out of a rut, we have to start to look at how to change the iceberg. Because without a change in your skills, beliefs, values and identity, things will keep showing up for you the way that they are. So above the surface there, you can see the things that we get to have. Going back to our formula for success, B times do equals have. On the surface there, where we're starting to take those actions as a result of your iceberg. And then down the bottom, who you are being. We are human beings, and we are the behaviour, if you like. So the word be is an interesting thing. You'll see it pop up in all sorts of words, but it's a reflection of your iceberg. So because I did this, because I behave this way. What are some of the other ones? I am a human being. I have beliefs. So the human, or the psyche of your mind is largely about who you are being.
Interesting, Brad, that to notice how much of the iceberg is below the surface. Would that indicate, how important that B part is compared to the rest of it?
Correct. Yeah, really important, Jake. We're going to go into this in some of the later sessions as well, but a lot of times we see people doing actions and decisions and behaviour that's the surface level. If we were to look at the rough proportions, the stuff that's going on below the surface is about 80% compared to about 20% above the surface. So if we're going to create lasting change in our life, there's no point doing things that are above the surface or at the surface. We have to really work on those deep underlying values. So this is something you'd see on a regular basis in the fitness industry. People come in and they're all motivated, particularly this time of year when we're recording this is sort of coming up to the new year, and everyone's going to have New Year's resolutions and they're going to get fit and all this. And they'll start up and they'll do the actions that are necessary, and they may even adjust some of their skills. But if they've got a belief that exercise is hard, that exercise is no fun, then it's going to be extremely difficult to maintain that level of commitment. And as what usually happens after a few days, maybe even a few weeks, that new person's disappeared and that old iceberg has come back. So they haven't been able to develop the changes to their iceberg that they need to sustain the activity. So yeah, it's a great point. Okay, so now that we understand a little bit about why we are stuck in a rut and what we need to do is what we're going to look at now, about some of the things that we need to change. But as I said, your skills, your beliefs and your values all need to be adjusted on the inside if you're going to get a difference on the outside. Fundamentally, the reason for that is that life and games are like a mirror. And I'm here to be a bit in your face with this one. The life that you have right now, you've created through actions that you have taken or that you have failed to take. So I can hear some of you saying now that it's not my fault and it's so-and-so happened to me and so forth and so on. But the fact is, until you get this point, and the above and below the line flip chart that we start with is probably one of the most important life principles you're ever going to know. And it's because of this. Your life and your games are just like a mirror, as are bank accounts and businesses and salaries. So your iceberg, your life is a reflection of your iceberg. If you have no money, then there's something going on with your beliefs and values and identity around money. If you have relationships that suck, then there's something happening around your iceberg. But the thing about the iceberg is it's unconscious. And a lot of the time we don't see what's going on. So when we do the money beliefs exercise in the seminar in a couple of weeks' time, you'll be quite surprised that when you do start to get a bit of a sneak peek at your iceberg of what's going on. And the first thing that we need to do in changing what's below the surface there is becoming aware of it. So we're going to look at some exercises for you to start to really see what's going on. How can I understand what's going on in my iceberg? Well, the first thing is to take a look at your life, because as I said, it's a perfect reflection. So just start to be aware of that now. So, if we're going to change, and getting out of a rut, as I said, is about shifting your iceberg, changing your iceberg, we're going to need to apply this formula. Now, forgive me, the people who are right side of the brain and not logically focused, my engineer kicks out every now and again. But basically this formula here is a manifestation of the old pleasure and pain principle. So on the left hand side we've got D times V plus F greater than R on the right hand side. So the D is the dissatisfaction in your life, the V is the vision, F's first steps and R is resistance. So how do we apply that to change? Well, we're going to start on the right hand side. Your resistance to change is usually to do with the beliefs that you have around changing. So it comes back to your iceberg. So if you don't have the belief structure in place to give you what you want, the equation is never going to work. So one of the things in coaching that I work with people is fundamentally starting to lower their resistance by providing them with evidence that's contrary to their beliefs. So as we start to flush out some of the beliefs you have in the different areas of your life, the first thing we're going to do is start to construct or prove that maybe there is an element of untruth in the beliefs that you've got. So a really important step of the process. Now if we go back to the left hand side, the D times the V. Now I want you to think of a seesaw. When we were kids in the park playing on the seesaw going up and down, if we're going to change, you can imagine the seesaw being in one position with one side higher than the other. We need to get enough weight on the other end of the seesaw to get it to flip up the other way. So the side that's now down goes to up and vice versa. Now, imagine that the R in this instance is the, pardon the language here I guess, but the fat kid sitting on the other end of the seesaw. That's the resistance. That's your resistance to getting outside of your comfort zone. So what we need to do is load up the other side with enough dissatisfaction for the situation that you have, where you get to a point where you're just so fed up that you're going to change whatever, and also having enough vision that what you're changing for will be better than what you have. Now Jake and I were talking about this the other day in terms of what it means in the fitness industry. So do you want to just talk about the change we were talking about when people sometimes get to that point and it doesn't matter what diet they go on?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because often we see all these testimonials and whatnot of people that have come to personal training and whatnot. However, the process for them and the process for other people that maybe haven't got those same results is very similar. However, the main difference is how dissatisfied that person was with their current situation when they first came. So that has a massive influence on the steps that they're then prepared to take to make it happen, I guess, and their coachability all of a sudden increases dramatically.
And I sort of talk about beliefs, and this is a belief that I've seen. I used to have a gym business many years ago, and you see about the miracle diets and all the rest of it, but a lot of the times the people who get these outstanding results, where they lose 50 kilos or whatever, it's because that they have got so much dissatisfaction and they can have been coached to have so much vision about what they want that it doesn't matter what diet they got onto, they were going to change. And you can see the application of this formula in shows like The Biggest Loser and those reality type TV shows where in that environment the dissatisfaction is generally being applied by the fact that you're on national television and there is no way that you're going to let yourself down in front of a whole country of people watching you. And the vision then is on the flip side is that you're going to look fantastic and the whole country is going to watch you getting fitter and fitter. So when you put that amount of weight into the D and the V, and then the first steps are generally provided by the trainers on the show, it's inevitable that whatever resistance you have is going to be overcome. So part of what I work with clients and part of what Jake does with his clients in here as well is to build up that dissatisfaction and that vision, to get enough energy on that left-hand side or on the side of the seesaw so that we lift up the fat kid on the other end and get the change to stay. And then the most important thing is to get those beliefs and values to readjust. And that's also what we're going to be looking at. We're going to discuss how beliefs get formed in your brain, the mechanics of it, and how to actually reverse that around. So the formula for change, very, very important. So, in life, we get situations presented to us all the time where we have the opportunity to change. But quite often we like to just stick our head in the sand. And this is where we are when we're in our ruts. We pretend that the problems are just going to go away. But the fact is that they don't. And I want to illustrate to you this point here about a client of mine once upon a time who was having some challenges and he refused to change. And this is the really cool thing about life. It always wants you to change for the better. So you get a choice in life because life is constantly changing. And we can see this in the marketplace. in every area of our life. If we don't change, then we're basically going backwards. Now, this particular client of mine had a massive stroke. And I said to him, what were some of the warning signs before you had the stroke? Because when we're travelling down the highway of life, you ever been driving down the road, and if you sometimes not focusing and you might drift into the middle, you start hitting those little cat eye things on your tyres? Well, life's a bit like that. We get these taps on the shoulder, these warnings. And for this guy, he said, before it happened, this stroke, I can remember I used to sit at my desk and my whole left leg would all of a sudden start to go numb for no reason, and I would, give it a bit of a shake and it'd kind of stop and go away. I said, okay, awesome. And then when we're driving down the road and we swing back away from the cat eyes, we may hit one of the guardrails, a 2x4. And I asked this client of mine, I said, okay, so you had those little warnings with the left-hand leg, and then it went on to get worse. What were some of the 2x4s that were happening for you at that stage? And he said, there was a couple of times that I remember I was working away at my keyboard and I fully just blacked out. And I woke up with my face on the keyboard, essentially. And being a typical bloke, he sort of shook it off and didn't take much notice of it. But if these warning signs that you have in your life, if you keep shoving your head in the sand, eventually you're going to get hit by a Mack truck, or in my client's example, he had a massive stroke. Thankfully, he's okay these days. He's not as good as he used to be, but he survived. So what are some of the taps and 2x4s in your life right now? You are getting signs about where you need to change right now. But you're either doing something about it, in which case you probably wouldn't be in your rut, but where are the areas in your life that you need to really change? Where are the taps? Maybe you've got a health thing, maybe there's a financial thing, maybe it's a relationship thing. They're usually the big ones: relationships, money, and health. Just take 10 seconds now to think about where some of the taps or 2x4s may be, so that we can identify them and head them off at the pass rather than be hit by a truck. Maybe you've got bills that are overdue and you haven't been paying them. Maybe your partner's not responding the way they used to. Maybe with your health you've got some aches and pains or some things that aren't quite right. Just start to bring them to the surface, because in terms of the change process, we've got to start to identify some of these key areas to work on first of all. Alright, so if we're going to change, we've got to identify some of these things. Now, the change process, getting out of your rut, getting onto the pathway to the things that you really want out of life, is not going to be an easy pathway. And I'm sorry to say that if it was easy, everybody would be doing it and we wouldn't be having this conversation. The change process usually involves this thing called perturbation. Now, if you recall at the start of the session, I said that my job as the coach is to do two things. It's to either empower someone or to perturb them into taking action. So when I'm empowering someone, I'm giving them the vision inside that formula for change, or when I'm perturbing someone, I'm giving them the dissatisfaction. So if I'm working with a business owner, we might be looking at their financial statements and they don't have a clue about what any of the numbers mean. So the sign from life there is, hey, we need to understand these numbers or we're going to get hit by a Mack truck and we're going to go down the gurgle with our business. So being aware of what those things are is critical. So they leave a coaching session like that quite put off, perturbed, scared, and as a result they change what they've always done and go and do something differently. Now, perturbation follows a process, I guess you could say, and I use the analogy of boiling water in a kettle. So if we talk about the water, as you can see from the slide here, that pressure gets applied to you. In a kettle situation, what happens is the electricity heats up the element in the kettle and applies pressure or heat energy to the water. And as a result, bubbles start to form within the water and it swarms around. And it gets to a point just before it boils. You ever notice that the kettle gets really, really noisy? Well, that's part of this pressure being applied. Ever notice when you're coming up to a really challenging part of your life or something you're not comfortable with, your guts are churning, there's all sorts of voices going on in your head. It's generally a pretty uncomfortable time. But once you break through, and in the kettle example, the water breaks through the surface tension of the water and becomes steam, you come out the other side as a much more powerful individual. So with the water, the molecules split apart and it comes together on the other side of the water as steam. As a human being, you literally within your iceberg, I guess you could say, split apart as you're going through this process of perturbation, and once you get through it, you come together on the other side as a different person. So your iceberg changes, and we're going to look at how we take you through that process in some of the seminars in the next couple of weeks. But all people must go through this perturbation for change, because as I said, if it was easy to change, everybody would do it. But having a process to follow and a system to use to make it as simple as possible is what speeds the process up. Okay, so as we go through life, we get all fired up, and as I said, we're coming up to the new year, and this is a great opportunity when most people start out all positive with a particular venture, and we hit the perturbation bubble. We start to feel some of that pressure building. There's a challenge within our life. And you know, the funny thing is, seems to be a life principle that I've observed when people set goals, that within a short time, if they're serious about a goal, there will be a major challenge put up with you as a test. So, to give you an example, my sister's currently travelling around Australia with her kids in a caravan and their dad. And it was something she'd been planning for a long time. And about 2 weeks out before they left, they had a massive hailstorm that pretty much nearly wiped out the caravan. And she rang me up and she said she was really, really, you know, obviously disturbed and stressed and perturbed about it. And she said, you know, maybe I shouldn't be going. Maybe this is crazy. Maybe we should just leave the kids in school and the rest of it. And I said to her, look, Nick, it's basically nature's way of testing you. They're seeing how serious you are about a goal. So just be aware of it. Whenever you set a goal in your life, you're probably going to be tested with the perturbation bubble. It's just the way that life works. Now, we get a choice. We can go through that perturbation process and quit and go out the other side to failure. My experience is that life will generally send you around the failure, back over to the start side, and try and push you through this perturbation process somewhere else. You get a choice in life. You can be proactive on the changes you want to make in your life, or you can be reactive. So proactive is starting that exercise program to get fit, to lose the weight. The reactive process is do nothing, life gives you a heart attack, and then you have to actually change. But the trick is choose proactive change, which is part of the perturbation. Instead of quitting, break through your bubble and go on through to success. Changing your iceberg, changing your beliefs and your values and your identity to get you to where you want to go. Getting out of the rut is critical. And as I said, it takes discipline to be able to break through. Which will you choose? So what do we do now? First step, we've got covered off. We looked at clarity about getting what you want. So beginning with the end in mind. So we looked at our 3-year time frame. How do you want your life to look in 3 years? You know, rather than doing it, we've identified what's most important to you with the death exercise. But what are the other things that are important to you? You know, where do you want to live? What sort of house do you want to live in? What do you want to be doing for a living? How do you want to be spending your spare time? Who do you see yourself with? Get clear on what you want. Begin with the end in mind. Second thing is to work backwards from that end point. So we're going to, in the sessions ahead, be looking at how to plan out getting what you want. So we start with our end goal, and then say we use a 3-year time frame. Where do we need to be in 2 years? Where do we need to be in 1 year? Where do we need to be in the next 90 days? Chunking your plan all the way back down so you have a series of steps to start to move towards your goal. Without no plan, it gets really, really difficult to achieve anything. You can imagine trying to build a house without having a plan. It'd be an interesting exercise as to what the house would turn out like. Yet, we spend more time planning our holidays or building a house than we do planning our life. So, with the planning process that we're looking at the next couple of weeks, we're going to look at all the areas of your life and give you some tools and templates that you can use forever, essentially to check in with how you're travelling with your life and where the areas are that you need to begin to adjust. And then take baby steps. And this is the meaning of when we bring our goals all the way back to the smallest level of an action that we can do now. There's no point in having massive big goals if you're trying to do it all in one hit. If we were going to drive to Sydney, we wouldn't just get in the car, turn the key on and then arrive in Sydney. We would have to have a series of steps that progress you to where you want to get to. So the first thing would be drive out of your driveway. That's the first step that you've got to do. And then turn onto the main road and then turn up to the next intersection. It's the same with your plans. Start with the small steps. Now, it usually takes about 30 days to install a habit. So something simple as eating a piece of fruit a day would be a good small step if you're looking at a health change. What if you were to save $1 a day? Do you know that $1 a day saved over the course of 40 years with 10% compounding interest annually adds up to $1 million? Most of us think about how the hell can we get the $1 million, but we don't realise by saving a little bit every day, it's the fastest path to make it happen. So make sure that you get small steps down. Maybe it's drink 2 litres of water a day. Maybe it's to read 10 pages of a book. But for the next 30 days, pick a baby step that's in alignment with where you want to get with your goals and stick to it. Now, as I said, the formula for change is going to kick in. You're going to need to have a little bit of dissatisfaction and vision, and there will be some perturbation. But you've got to press on with it to make sure that it's going to happen. Get help. This is the thing that I see so often with people. They get stuck and they are too proud, or their ego gets in the way, or whatever it is, but they don't ask for help. As humans, most of us are pretty giving and caring, even if it's a friend. Ask someone to be a support line for you. Get a coach. With my business, in terms of helping business owners, one of the biggest things they get out of it is just having a fellow business owner that they can share some of their challenges with and get ideas on how to get out of it, because it can be a pretty scary place. The good thing about having a coach or having other people is it's changing your environment as well, which is about going back to the iceberg, helping you to change what you've got there. You know, what if you were to take out someone who take out to lunch, someone who you admire, someone who has the identity iceberg that you would like to have? Take them out to lunch. What if you found someone every month and you learned one thing from them and you put that into practice in your life? You know, maybe they teach you that you've got to pay yourself first. What sort of a savings plan do you have? Do you pay yourself first, or do you sort of spend all your money and then try and save what's left? What about if you saved first and then tried to live on what you've got after that? Imagine the difference that makes over your life. So as I said, we're going to look at some of the strategies around your beliefs and values in a couple of weeks' time, and how to start to look at changing some of your money beliefs. And then it's take action. Have a plan, commit to it, and do the things that you need to do. So if it's that eat that apple a day, maybe it's go for a walk around the block, maybe it's put that $1 away a day, whatever it is. But keep taking action. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you're not taking the actions, everything was a waste of time. With this webinar, if you've been sitting there thinking, yeah, this is all great, and you're all fired up and you're ready to go, you get off this and you forget about it and don't do anything with it, you've essentially just wasted the last hour of your life. Action without not taking action is, you know, when you've learned something new. I have a saying about, Jake opened up with the I know phrase in terms of switching off your I know. I have a saying that to know and to not do is to not know at all. So, and we were talking about this the other day with Jake and some of his clients, and we're talking to them about the nutrition. They'll go, yeah, I know that. But the fact is, they might know it, but when they're not doing something about it, you may as well not know it at all. So really, really important one. Take some action. And in closing, just a really simple saying. Discipline is doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. It's too easy to wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'll start my exercise program tomorrow. Or when you're in the shopping centre and you see that new dress or that new toy or whatever it is that you want, instead of having the discipline not to do it, you go ahead and do it. So it's being able to have that discipline to keep yourself away from some of the challenges or to make sure that you're getting things done. So hopefully you've got a whole bunch of ideas there about how you can start to get out of your rut, but the key thing is to take some action and to have a plan, and just be aware that it's not going to be easy. So I'll hand it back to you now, Jake.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. And it's amazing. I know from my point of view, I've heard Brad talk about this stuff literally dozens of times, but I always get something new out of it every time I listen. So from my point of view, thank you, and hopefully you've all listening have got something out of that now. So the next question, you might be sitting there thinking, all right, that's all great, but what's next? You know, where do I go from here? And there's two options basically. Option number one will be to take what you've learned today and go and break through out of your rut by yourself. And if that's the one that you choose, then we wish you the best of luck and we hope that it's successful for you. Option number two would be to let us help you get out of that rut that you're in and let us teach you how to never go back, okay? Now hopefully you're sitting there saying to yourself, that sounds pretty good to me, and you'd like a bit more info. Well, luckily for you, I'm about to do that. So how we can help is what we're offering right now is a 4-webinar series that we've got coming up. So similar to today, but we'll be going into much more detail on each of the little aspects that we've covered off on. So our first webinar is going to be about understanding your beliefs and values. And Brad, I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about why that's so important.
Yeah, look, as we were looking at the iceberg there, we've got to get down to these deeper level things in your mind and start to shift those for the evidence to change on the outside. So we're going to do a hands-on exercise here about your beliefs around money and your values as well. So there's a questionnaire that I will get everyone to do that's going to start to uncover what some of your limiting beliefs are around money, and then we can look at how the process works for changing some of those beliefs. So fundamentally, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and there'll be plenty of interesting things you get to learn about yourself and how to start to change some of those areas as well.
Pretty eye-opening, I'm sure, especially that one around money. We often sit here thinking, oh, we just need to make more money, we need to make more money. But I recently heard a story about a lady, many years ago, mind you, but she made something like $2 a day as a cleaner in the States, and yet she ended up a millionaire.
Yep.
So it doesn't necessarily matter how much money you make, it's more about your beliefs around it and what you do with it.
Just an interesting point on that. I was at a seminar recently and the guy said money doesn't solve money problems, which was quite a profound statement when you think about it, and talking about what we've been talking about today. Just because you have all money or lots of money, you'll still disperse it the way you always have unless you change your iceberg. So
yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it? Number two will be on mindset and attitude, and it goes without saying how important that is, and we've touched on it briefly today, but I mean, you can have, like you mentioned before, you can have all the skills and know all the things, but if you don't have the right mindset to back it up, then it's going to kind of fall over at some point in time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about, the mindset and attitude is about how to, you've got this incredible tool, if you like, your brain, but sometimes we don't know how to set it up and use it properly. So we're going to look at how you, it's like teach you how to drive a car. So we're going to teach you how to drive your brain in terms of your mindset and your attitude, so that you can really start to get some massive change, because the attitude that you have determines a lot of what happens in your life. And before you get the right attitude, you've got to get the right mindset. So yeah, that one's always interesting. People get massive value out of that.
And being able to control that's really powerful, isn't it? Instead of waking up feeling good one day, going out and doing some great stuff, and the next day not feeling so good, just knowing a bit more about why you feel good and how you can actually control that, so you can be more consistent.
Yeah, consistency is the key thing there. So yeah, very true.
Number three, goal setting for success, and you've all, I'm sure, have done some form of goal setting, whether it be formal or just saying, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But I guess there's many ways about going about it, and not all of them are directly going to help you, create that quickest line to success.
Yeah. So what we're going to be looking at here is how do you set a goal that is going to give you the best chance of success? So goal setting, a lot of people have goals, but a lot of the time we have wishy-washy type things. So we're going to set you up with some ways that you can actually create the goal that you want in such a way that it makes it nearly impossible not to get it. So yeah, that one will be really interesting as well.
And being very clear on exactly what you want to get, isn't it?
Clarity, very, very important. So
cool. And number 4, putting it all together. So all that stuff is great, but we need to be able to put it together in a plan so that we can make it happen and get some logical steps happening. And like Brad mentioned before, some baby steps, so we know what we've got to do each year, each 90 days, each month, each week, each day, each hour, each minute to make it happen.
Yeah, part of what we're going to share with you there is I've developed a template to look at how to chunk all those big long-term goals down into a series of almost daily actions. So that will be included as part of putting all this program together, and we're going to walk you through that template on how to fill it out, give you some rock solid examples so that you get the skills to start to work out how to do this by yourself on an ongoing basis. So yeah, it's where the rubber meets the road.
Cool. Awesome. So these webinars, if you were to look at those, yourself, if you wanted just those, that'd be valued at $7.97. But of course, that's not all you're going to get. So wait, hold your horses. We've got a few special bonuses that I'm going to run through with you. So number 1 is a 12-month access to my membership website, which is all about fitness and health. And in particular, a lot of value in that will be located in our video workouts. So there's literally dozens of workout videos that you'll just go and click and follow along, and literally you never have to set foot in a gym again if that's what you choose. You can do all of your workouts from home, really time efficient, and on top of that there's heaps of other value in the website as well. Interviews with successful people, with some of Australia's top personal trainers, heaps of nutrition info, the list goes on. You get a 30-minute Mastering Your Mindset session with Brad himself, the guy you've just been listening to for the last hour. And I know personally that one-on-one time is incredibly valuable, and we can take all the things that you've learnt and really just help you with the clarity of getting exactly what you need to get done to make it happen for you. So everyone's a little bit different in that they're going to have different things holding them back, okay, stopping you from being successful in your own mind or achieving the goals that you've set. So Brad will really be able to help you dig a little bit deeper there, ask the right questions, which he has a cunning knack of doing. And again, it might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but the growth you're going to get out of that will be second to none and very, very valuable. And lastly, you'll get also a one-on-one Fast Track Your Fitness session with myself. So what we're going to be doing there is making sure that you've got a solid set of goals in terms of what you want to achieve with your health, because if you're not healthy, the rest of your life is going to fall apart. It's really, really critical. And also figuring out what's holding you back from being as healthy and fit as you can possibly be, and happy, okay, because that's a big part of happiness. So hopefully you're sitting there saying to yourself, that sounds great. How much was probably the next question you've got. So what's the deal? Total value, including the bonuses, is just shy of $1,600. Now the good news today is that you don't have to pay that, all right? So hopefully you're there cheering, got a big smiley face on. Even better news, you won't have to pay half of that. Better again, you won't even have to pay a third. So you're probably sitting there now saying, all right, what is it? Tell me, tell me, tell me. So get your hands on the entire program for just one payment of $4.97, or if you prefer, 3 times monthly payments of $1.97. Okay, so you're going to get all that value for literally less than a third of what it's worth. Okay, and that's conservative estimates. So what to do now? Simply go to this website, and you want to write this down straight away, www.pept.com.au/engineer your life. Now what you're going to find when you get there is those 2 options that we just spoke about. So there'll be one button that says pay up front and save, something like that. If you want to do the $4.97 option, click that one. There'll be another button that says 3 times $1.97, and if you prefer that option, then simply click that. PayPal will take care of the rest. All you have to do is type in your info and away it goes. We're going to help you set up your account. You're going to get lifetime access to all of the webinars, as well as all the other bits and pieces, and we'll have our templates and whatnot up there to also help you as well. Okay, so it'll all be in one spot for you, nice and easy. The next step from there is you'll simply start the journey of breaking through your plateau, getting out of that rut, and moving on to live the life of your dreams. So, excuse me. So hopefully that sounds awesome, but just to take any risk out of it for you, we also have a incredibly strong guarantee where if you're not happy with the value you receive, if you think we've talked it up but we haven't delivered, which I hope is not going to happen, and it's never happened to us in the past, But if that is the case, then let us know and we'll give you 100% of your money back, okay? So it takes any risk out of it for you. Very simple. If it sounds good to you, jump up the top there to that website, pept.com.au/engineer your life. And we look forward to working with you. And we also just want to thank you for your time today and coming out. And also a big thanks to Brad for his time.
Thanks, Jake. And yeah, hopefully everyone's got plenty of value out of it there today. Just a couple of things that I wanted to leave you with before we finished up. A couple of my favourite sayings. One's by Benjamin Franklin, who said, if you think education is expensive, you should try ignorance, which early on in my life when I kind of thought that I knew everything, I woke up to that one. But the other one also is by one of my favourite life philosophers. And a lot of people don't think of this guy as a philosopher, but Einstein had some brilliant, simple logic for the way human beings act. And he said, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. So just ponder those two as we close up today, and I wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you on one of our programs soon.
Cool. And it's a good point there, Brad, and at the risk of labouring on, past the finish time, it's not a cost, it's more of an investment. And if you think about that money values exercise that we were talking about before, literally, if you want to think of it this way, sign up, do that first webinar. If you don't think that first webinar is going to make you that money back plus a whole lot more, then let us know. We'll give you your money back. So
Absolutely.
It's a pretty simple decision at the end of the day. But again, thanks for coming on board and spending your time here. And we look forward to spending a whole bunch more time with you and helping you on your journey.